Good afternoon. Good afternoon. So, I rented a car recently, and when I got in the car, in Spain, of course. So, when I got in the car, um, I kind of got it. First of all, kind of walked around the wrong side of the car, forgetting that the steering wheel's on the other side. Naturally, did what I always do. Nope, that's the wrong side, Steve. Go around the other side. So I eventually get into the driver's seat, and then I start driving. And first thing I do naturally is with my left hand, I go for the gear stick, which is the door, right? I go for the door, which is obviously not where the gear stick is, right? So what happened is I've gone into this car, and I've really realized that this is a familiar situation, but there are some differences. Okay, so I became really aware really quickly that I was conscious about my level of incompetence in driving this car, which, is a manual car, and I'm used to driving automatic for the last however many years. It's a smaller car. I'm used to driving a bigger car, higher up, automatic, with lots more toys and gadgets. The steering wheel is on the wrong side, and on top of that, I've got to drive on the wrong side of the road. So all of a sudden, there's all this change in my environment, change in my situation, and I became very aware very quickly that I was conscious of my incompetence. I was conscious of really thinking, man, I need to focus on this thing, right? So of course, I started focusing, and the first day it was a bit scary for Isabel because she's the one in the passenger seat, and so I'm driving, and it's like all of a sudden I'm at a roundabout, and it's like, well, cars are coming from different directions because they don't know that you just got in the car, right? They don't know that you're just not someone driving a bit cautiously because you don't know what you're doing. So cars are coming this way. I'm trying to edge out into traffic and so on. Anyway. Start driving, and then get onto the motorway, and then realizing you've got to look this way over my shoulder instead of this way, and so on. Anyway, so the first day, a little bit hairy, got back to where we're staying, and next day went out a little bit better, started to get a bit more comfortable. So now I went from being consciously incompetent to what's called consciously competent. So I was conscious that I was competent. I was able to do what I needed to do, but I was very aware that I had to really think about it. I couldn't just drive on autopilot, And so then what happens is you develop a sense. You start to get used to it. You start to realize that. And again, another thing, by the way, is if I'm on the left side of the car, obviously on the left side, I'm used to having no car to the right of me, right? So now you're having to really judge. I've got another so many feet of car this side. I've got to be careful on that. So anyway, I'm having to think about where I position the car. A few days later, now I start to move into that period of from conscious competence into unconscious competence. Now I started getting into the swing of things, right? And again, in the comments, chat if you can relate to this, right? Just let me know. Yeah, I've done the same thing. In fact, I'm going to tell you something else in a minute. You'll probably be able to relate to more. So now I'm starting to drive, and I'm not really having to think so much about it. Every now and again, I might grab the door with my left hand instead of the stick with my right hand because I forget, and it's like, oh no, wrong way, And I'm sure you've experienced it, maybe even in the UK when you drive a car and you're used to having your indicators on the left, and then a different car, the indicators on the right, and you end up turning the windscreen wipers on, which, by the way, I've done that a few times too. So then what happens is you move into this period of conscious competence. And now it's just natural. I'm driving without worrying. And then the problem then is you move into a period after time, you move into a period of what's called unconscious competence. So now it's natural, it's second nature. I unconsciously do it. But the problem with that, moving into unconscious competence, is a really good thing because things become normal, things become habit, things are easier. But it's very easy to move from unconscious competence, so you subconsciously know what you're supposed to do, into back into unconscious incompetence again. Does that make sense? So you start off, and again, I want you to relate this to maybe when you learn to drive, if you drive, right? When you started out, you were unconsciously incompetent. You didn't know what you didn't know. You didn't know about driving. You didn't know what you had to do. You didn't know what popping the clutch meant. You didn't know about mirror signal maneuver. You just were unconsciously incompetent. You weren't any good, but you didn't know that you weren't any good. Okay, so unconscious incompetence. Then you went for driving lessons and you stalled the car a few times, and then you realized, man, I don't know what I'm doing here. I need to actually learn the skills to drive a car properly. So now you started to become consciously incompetent. Now you are aware that you don't know. So you know you've got to learn. So after a while, you drive a bit, then you move into conscious competence. Now you are conscious of what you need to do and you make a point of doing it. And then you move back into unconscious incompetence again. And if you think about it, and this may be something you can relate to, have you ever, and again, put it in the chat or comments or whatever, have you ever been driving somewhere, especially where you're familiar where you're going, and you just kind of got there? It's like, wow, I don't even remember the drive here. I just kind of arrived, you know? Again, I've done that many times. And that's because you kind of just got into autopilot. You started driving, you did it. In fact, I did it the other day. I was going to meet somebody, and the directions started to take me the same way as we'd go to the supermarket. So I just driving along, and all of a sudden I went, oh, hold on a minute. I'm not even looking at the sat nav. Where are we going again? And luckily, the place I was going was actually to next to the supermarket. But it was only that I realized by looking at the sat nav. So I want you to kind of ask yourself, are there things in your life that maybe you are not looking at as being, you're lacking in that area? Maybe there's things that you did normally, naturally, but you've slacked off a little bit, and it's easy to do. Maybe you got into the habit of doing your affirmations every day, but then you kind of slacked off, and now you almost forgot about it sometimes, and it becomes normal to do less, perform at a lower level. You know, if you want to peak perform, you've got to get to that point of either conscious competence or unconscious competence, ideally. But again, just to be clear, if you have got to that stage of unconscious competence where you do what you do, it's a habit, you don't have to think about it, just be careful that you don't slip back into bad habits, not doing your mirror signal maneuver, not indicating, not holding your hands at whatever it is, 10 to 2, and so on. So again, I hope that makes sense. I just thought it was something that you know, I was thinking about this morning, and I thought I'd share it with you. And again, if you're on Facebook, share, like, love hearts, comments. YouTube, again, please share, subscribe to the channel. And again, Instagram, same thing, share, follow, like, all the normal social media stuff. So have an awesome rest of the day, and take care. Bye-bye.